We welcome in our NHL Network insider, Elliotte Friedman, right now. Elliotte, we've seen some rivalries really heating up this season with these regionalized schedules, and fans certainly love it. What do you think the schedule looks like next season? I know there's a couple of options out there right now.
Well, basically, what's going to happen there, Jameson, is that we're not going to go back to these current divisions. We're going to go back to the way it was before, and they're not going to go with the Canadian division. They're going to go back with the way we were used to, the three Western teams playing in the Pacific. Toronto with Montreal and Ottawa and Boston and that particular group back in the Atlantic. And you've got screen number one up there. Thank you very much. I don't have to do this from memory. Option number one: 32 games home and home opposing conference, 24 games with the other teams, other division in the same conference, and 26 games in your own division. Now, that likely leads to the conference-based playoffs we saw before, the top three in each division making it, and then the crossovers for the next two spots. Now, option two that was presented to the general managers is a home and home with the other three divisions. So that's 48 games. So you get 28 in your own division, 4 games against the other 7 teams, and 6 specialty games. So, hey, for example, I know, Dave, when you were in Denver, you love those games against Dallas or Detroit, or Ken, when you were in New Jersey, you like those games with the Rangers or the Islanders. You get maybe the option for more of those. And what I'm told is that it's likely, because it's a division setup where you play your division the most, that could be a divisional only playoff, kind of like what we're seeing this year. So those were the two options the teams were given, and they've started to give their feedback already. And by the way, I would just like to say I really enjoyed you guys talking about that Vancouver-Ottawa game, and I am with you. I am so sick of that drop pass. I am tired of seeing that drop pass 5 times on every power play.
Don't get Dano started, please. His blood was already boiling. Shadow boxing in here the other night, and all our HR situation was really kicking into play. Let's talk about the Canadian division right now. It's been a great regular season. We love the rivalries, the Battle of Ontario, the Battle of Alberta a couple of times, 9 times to be exact. What does the playoff picture look like as far as how things might shake out with the current restrictions still in place up there?
Well, Jameson, I think what the NHL really wants is what they'd hope to have, and that is that the first 2 rounds are played at each team's home arena, and then if the border's not open, and it's certainly not really trending that way up here, then the Canadian team would move down into the States for the 3rd round, and if they win the Stanley Cup final. Now, when the cases were really exploding here and Vancouver went through its outbreak, they did tell the teams that it was possible, but not what they really wanted, that they could move all 4 Canadian teams into the United States for the playoffs. That's not what they want to do. I think they're going to avoid that at all costs, but they are concerned about the fact that there have been outbreaks here, and in Canada, the players aren't vaccinated anywhere near close to where they are in the United States. So, that's kind of where we are right now. I think it's most likely the Canadian teams play their first 2 rounds at home, and then in the 3rd round, they figure out who wins and where they want to play. I'm not sure if they go the closest team to the border, like with Toronto playing Buffalo, or would they take the Canadian winner and put them in a place like Chicago, because that's central, and that it's in the middle of the country and you can get anywhere from Chicago. So that's all still to be determined.
Okay. We know some of the big news coming out a couple of nights ago, the Board of Governors meeting to kind of approve the second part of the new TV contract with Turner Sports. Of kind of the details that came out, aside from that, what were some of your takeaways from those conversations?
Well, I heard it wasn't the longest meeting, and there were 2 things they really talked about, and that was the TV deal. And I should say I've tried to poll as many teams as I possibly can since that meeting on Monday, and it does seem that they are pretty satisfied with the number that the league got. I think there was real concern after they saw the NFL numbers that maybe there wouldn't be a lot of money left in the television business for the NHL, but with the number coming in around $650, I think a lot of people are really satisfied with that and are happy that the commissioner got them to there. Even some of the people I know who aren't his biggest fans were very impressed with that particular number. I think the other thing they talked about was the protocols. And, obviously in the United States, where you guys all are, it's very strange to hear this because the amount of people that are vaccinated are far ahead of us. And there's a lot of places in the States now where you can go, where basically anybody can go get vaccinated. But here it's not the case. And I think what happened in Vancouver really spooked the league. And I think the commissioner warned teams that if there were outbreaks during the playoffs, teams could have to potentially forfeit their series. They weren't going to be able to hold series up if the other ones were all going. And so I think he said you have to follow the protocols, because in the playoffs, if you can't play, you risk being knocked out for that reason.
All right, on the ice elsewhere, Gerard Gallant named the head coach for Team Canada coming up at this year's World Championships. What's the interest level for a coach of Gerard Gallant's caliber as far as being behind an NHL bench coming up this offseason?
Well, I think he's very interested. And to be honest, Jameson, I'm a little bit surprised how long it's taken him to get back in. And I think some of that is his own situation. I think, he's, he wants to find a good fit for himself, which is perfectly reasonable. But, you're showing highlights of a guy who took a team to the Stanley Cup final in their right away in their first season. And I'm really surprised that it's taken him this long to be back behind a bench. But, I think he will have opportunities. I think this is going to be an interesting challenge, because I do think the Canadian and U.S. teams are going to have and even some of the pros, countries from overseas who have pros in North America, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be right after the end of the current season, where the players have been in a pretty tight, not bubble, but pretty tight protocol. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to say, look, I just want to relax. I just want to go home. So I think it's going to be hard for Canada and the U.S. to fill out their roster, but I think he's a good coach, and I think he'll be the kind of guy that players will want to go play for.
All right. Obviously, we love the insight, but the thing I love most about having you on, Elliotte, is you're on the forefront of fashion. I mean, you rocked the world when you wore the turtleneck on Hockey Night in Canada. Now you've got the leopard print tie on. I'm wondering how you're going to match that. But look at this. I mean, attention to detail here. Nobody does a tie. No mirror either, huh? You're just flowing.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Like on this one, this is the insight that people want. I was a total idiot because I put my makeup on before I put my tie on.
Oh, can't do
so I'm sitting there.
Move, Elliotte. Rookie move.
Like you're right, Dave. Like just total dumbness, right? Like total idiocy. So now I'm sitting here and I'm going, I have to do my tie up that way because I can't get the makeup on the collar.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Otherwise, you got to chuck it.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, could you be a bigger idiot? I'm thinking to myself, and I have to do my tie this way.
Oh, it looks good. I'm just wondering how you managed the leopard print, but it always dials in.
Looks sharp, Elliotte.
Yeah, you always.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Elliotte, good catching up. We'll talk to you down the road, I'm sure.
A reminder, the camera's always watching.
Always
have to be careful.
Especially around here, Elliotte.
You better believe it's going to make our show.
You didn't fall out of a chair recently.
Try to Google that one.
No.
And I fell hard.
I wasn't picking my nose, nothing like that.
Yeah. Dano going down, putting his feet up on the desk. Yeah. Dano goes down hard. He was on the IR. He was almost the LTIR.
Business. I thought playing in the National Hockey League was.
All right, Elliotte, we'll say goodbye.